Hey, what's up everybody? It's Friday, and that means this will be your last Rules of Engagement until Monday, so you gotta get in 3 days worth of analysis just in today. Of course, as always, I'll be your host, Nick Axslav Ranish, as we look at Starcraft and the strategies and tactics employed at the professional level and how you can use those tactics at home to improve your play. Up today, we're going to be looking at the Flash versus Partying series from the Major League Gaming Winter Championships at Dallas. It was a great series. Go check out those VODs at youtube.com/officialmlgsc2 to catch the entire series and all the awesomeness that transpired during those games. But today, we're going to be doing analysis on Game 1 and, of course, Game 4 as well. At the end of the show, it's going to be viewer Q&A. So anytime you have a question, any time of the day, go ahead, tweet it at me at @axslav. And at the end of whatever Rules of Engagement episode is coming up next, in fact, if you ask right now, it'll be this very episode. At the end of it, I'll answer those questions on air and can help you guys out with any strategical concerns or life concerns you guys have. Also, don't forget, if you have any replays and you're interested in having those replays looked over, in the future, we're going to bring back the community critique. So you can go ahead to majorleaguegaming.com/replays. and submit your replays that you want analyzed on air on this show in the future. Going forward, taking a look at game number 1 between Flash versus Partying. A couple things I want to talk about are, in Heart of the Swarm, there's a lot of new early Terran and Protoss harass options. There's also a lot of new early Terran and Protoss harass defense options, and these things are very, very important to understand and to figure out how to make them work so you don't end up losing games early on to harass, and also so you can make sure you have an option of winning the game with your own well-executed harass. Then we're going to talk about heading into the mid-game in the game state that this game ends up being, the goals that the Terran and Protoss have, and kind of like the way they want the game to go, and how Flash and Partying both play to try to achieve their goals going forward. So we're going to jump into the game at the 7-minute mark. As we can see here, both players expanded fairly quickly. Worker count is roughly even, which it usually is. Of course, Chrono Boost on the Protoss side helps them build workers faster, but then you know, they have to build the Mothership Core, and as well the Terran's command center is pretty much always going to be laid down before the Nexus. So Protoss usually has a small work advantage, but not a big one, but a very, very even opening from both players. Now, talking about harass options from the Terran player, right? One thing they can do is we see Flash here. After the expansion, teching up very quickly to medevacs. Medevacs are very, very good at harassing because they now have the speed boost. So what they allow you to do is, because they're so fast, you can potentially get in there, drop, and do a lot of damage to your opponent's worker line. If your opponent has defenses, it's much the medevac is fast enough to use its turbo boost to speed out of there, so you won't take too much damage. On the other hand, from the Protoss perspective, the Protoss' unit that can do a similar accomplishment is the Oracle. Because what the Oracle can do is it's similar. If there's an undefended worker line, Oracle can get in there and do a ton of damage to said worker line. But at the same time, its movement speed is high enough that it can escape if there is appropriate defenses. So both Terran and Protoss have these options to do a lot of nice harass early on, but also do it pretty much risk-free as long as your control is spot on, which, of course, if you're playing the level of Flash and Partying, you're going to have that control. If you're not playing at the level of Flash and Partying, you can practice to keep getting better and better control so you don't lose your early harass units. Now, talking about the potential harass defenses, right? It's not just there's these new things like Oracles and the turbo boost ability on the medevac that make harass stronger. There's also new things that make it easier to defend harass. So if you look at the Terran player, if you're going up to the fast medevac anyway, you might as well get a couple of these Widow Mines, right? Of course, if you're good at scouting like Flash is, you're going to know that your opponent is not attacking you from the front, have these early warning guys out, so if they do a frontal assault, you're ready to receive it. You can pull SCVs, you can sacrifice your expansion if you have to. You have a lot of options to play around with. Knowing that they're not going to be attacking you at the front, or if you see them, you have time to pull all your units back to the front. What you can do then is you can combine, as always, position your units intelligently to help defend, but also add in your Widow Mine. And what you can do here, as we can see from Partying's viewpoint, as this Oracle heads in to say, okay, it's time to fry some SCVs, the first thing he sees is right here. Let's actually highlight it a little bit. We can take a look at it. You can actually, if you're a Protoss player, it's very, very important, or Zerg player, or Terran player, if you ever play against Terran, which of course everyone runs up against Terran players occasionally on the ladder, it's important to know how to spot widow mines even without detection. And you can notice them because, as you can see here, right where I circled, the ground looks a little bit different. There's like a shadow, a darkness there. And you should be, at least if you're going into Harass with an Oracle, be ready to spot this, right? And so what Flash does is he places this widow mine here at the top end of his expansion. Now, if parting, it has a moment of he's not quite paying attention, this Oracle steps about 1 square forward more, 2 squares forward more, the widow mine takes it out, and Flash is looking in great shape. Now, parting, being a great player, of course, says, okay, the widow mine's here, I can still harass the bottom of the worker line, so I'm going to head down here and go for the workers that way. Now, of course, this is where just having a widow mine isn't always enough. You also have to place some units intelligently or have a second widow mine. So Flash, if we actually get back into the game, we can see he's more than ready for that with this little Marine squad over here. The Oracle goes down to avoid the widow mine. It says, I'm going to kill some of these SCVs here. Oh, no, there's Marines here. Now, Oracle can actually take on 4 Marines, but if it tries to take on when it sees its 4 Marines and 2 more enter the battlefield from beyond the shadows, it's going to die, and it's not worth it. Killing a couple Marines is not going to really be a decisive advantage, but losing an Oracle can be a big deal because the Oracle is a very expensive unit. You spent a lot of gas and time to invest in that. So, in general, if you're a Protoss player, unless you know it's only 1 or 2 or 3 Marines, for certain there's no other Marines nearby, try to avoid engaging Marines. And like I said earlier, your Oracle is fast enough if they have good defense. You just back away with minimal risk, right? Just run out of there, lose a few shields, but it's all good. Now, going from the Terran perspective, if you're a Protoss trying to defend Harass, it's the same idea as a Terran. As long as you're, let's say, you're parting, right? Remember, he's got the observer out in front of his opponent's base. He knows there's no massive frontal attack coming at him, right? So if you know there's no massive frontal attack coming at you, what you want to do is you want to place your units intelligently to defend potential Harass. So that means make sure the top left is pretty safe, which the Oracle, if you notice, it actually went on this path here. So it kind of already is reasonably confident there's no drop. If there's a drop, it's most likely from this angle. If it is, he's got the Mothership Core close to Photon Overcharge this Nexus very easily. So using those 2 defenses as a Protoss when your opponent comes in here with the Medevac, the Stalkers can deflect it from one angle. If it's a single Medevac, 3 Stalkers should be enough. And then, of course, you have the Mothership Core here to defend the natural. So make sure you're covering every single angle, and if you combine those abilities, you should be fine to defend Harass. We can see here from Flash's perspective, he says, okay, there's Stalkers there. Let's circle around this Medevac. Let's actually follow this guy. We'll circle around the Medevac and try to hit from a different angle over down here. And you can see Party did the same thing with his Oracle. He tried to poke in from the bottom, and again, Flash, of course, realizes that, okay, if you can't find a hole in the top because of the widow mine, you might find one in the bottom, so by then you had Marines and a missile turret ready to defend that section. Same thing with Party. The Medevac's going to come around here. Let's slow it back down. Over here for the drop, and he's got the Mothership Core ready. As soon as that drop comes into play, he's going to lay down Photon Overcharge on the Nexus, and very importantly, when you Photon Overcharge a Nexus, as soon as you have the basically, first you put the Photon Overcharge, then what you want to do is you want to select this Nexus and right-click this Medevac. And the reason why it's so important to see that, the first 1 or 2 shots hit Marines, then he immediately refocused onto this Medevac. The reason why that's important is because if you keep targeting the Marines, you might kill 1 or 2 Marines, right? But again, remember how I talked about it earlier, killing 1 or 2 Marines is not going to be that huge a deal. While you're doing that, either the Marines will be massacring your probes, or you'll have to do a party did here where you retreat your probes. Either way, you'll be losing mining time. If you target the Medevac, the Terran's stuck with a choice. They either have to pick up and leave right now, which is what Flash does, or if they hesitate for a couple seconds, then once you kill the Medevac, the Marines are stuck, and you can kill them at your leisure. You'll get all 8 of them, and you'll basically mop up the Medevac and 8 Marines, and all of a sudden, that's a blow that actually is going to substantially impact the Terran's army at the 11 to 12 minute mark, where we're often able to scary pushes. So we can see here, Flash, of course, makes a smart decision, pulls this Medevac away to escape, and you know, if he hesitated even a second more, especially with that observer to give high ground vision, this Medevac would have been toast. So very, very good play by both sides, making sure, you know, Flash keeping the Medevac alive and not taking any damage to this Oracle, 0 kills. Parting, keeping the Oracle alive when it could have been easy to run into the Widow Mine. They could have easily ran into groups of Marines. And, of course, also taking basically no damage from that Medevac. So now I was going to grab a little Marine kill there, not too shabby. But the important thing here is to understand the different options you have for Harass from both sides without having to commit to an all-in. Medevacs from Terran are one of their strongest Harass tools. From the Protoss is the Oracle. And it's also important to understand that to defend Harass, the most important thing is scouting, right? Both players knew there was no massive frontal assault coming, so they felt comfortable pardoning, keeping 3 Stalkers back here, and of course, Flash keeping the Widowmine, and he had 4 Marines as well, feeling comfortable leaving units back to defend. So as we progress in the game, both players kind of like tried to harass other guy and said, okay, you're very good at this game. I can't kill you this early. Let's go on to the mid-game, right? It's kind of like a little nod of respect, and that's how the game progresses. And when you're playing at home, this will happen. A lot of your games, nothing will happen early, right? Because people are so busy macroing, they're not even going to try any harass attempts, or it's just not their favorite style. You're going to get stuck in a game that often looks like this. Around this point in the game, Terran, as soon as they have medevacs, they're going to move out because they feel confident if they run into a force that's big enough to beat this army. As soon as they have medevacs, they have that mobility advantage. They can easily escape because they can stim, run away, and they have the medevacs so they can heal up that stim damage and make it as basically so they don't lose any damage. And now as we go into the mid-game, we're going to take a look at a couple things. What is each player trying to accomplish here? So what the Protoss wants to do as they progress in the mid-game is Protoss has a lot of powerful high-tech abilities, right? They have Colossi. They often get Chrono Boost upgrades to get ahead of that. And they have Charge, they have Blink, they have Storm, Archons. They have all these powerful units they want to get to because that's what Protoss is. They're the high-tech superpower race, right? But right now, he's got a couple Colossi, so he's fine to engage in a straight fight. But until this Twilight... where's that Twilight Council? Until this Twilight Council completes, and the Protoss player either gets charged, so he can start running down to bio armies, or he gets Blink, so he can snipe away medevacs and stop drops. The Protoss player is in a situation where, yes, your army can be big and tough, but without the Twilight Council tech, you really can't keep up with a Terran mobility play. They can micro around you, they can do drops. So your goal as a Protoss is to get up that Twilight tech without taking significant damage, right? So you want to make sure you're not taking damage, make sure your defense is good. One of the key things that Parting does to do that is if we take a look at what he's done is, remember that Oracle that he's kept alive all game? Right? If we take a look at Parting's vision, right? Parting actually sees a lot of Flash's army. That's because this Oracle has an ability called Revelation. It costs 75 energy, but you put it on a group of units, and then as a Protoss player, you can see where those units are. So you put that Revelation on your opponent's medevacs. You can know at least if those medevacs are doing drops. Of course, they might have some extra rally medevacs, but you know where a good chunk of their army is, and that makes it much, much easier to defend. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting an Oracle, like getting a Stargate and an Oracle just to get Revelation, because it's a little bit cheaper, more economical to build observers if you don't have the Stargate. But if you've already got that Oracle for the harass purpose and it's still alive, Revelation is a great way to keep track of your opponent and to make sure you can minimize any damage that might happen while you're trying to get up basically your mobility tech, your charge, and your blink. Now, from a Terran perspective, looking at this from Flash, we'll just play it forward as it goes through. What is Flash's goal? Well, against a good Protoss opponent, you're not really going to get too much damage done, right? Parting on 2 bases, you can't get too much damage done. You can try to look, right? You can do it Flash it. You can poke in the front, see if there's opportunity to go in there and get damage. You can look for drops. Of course, if your units are being revealed with Revelation, you don't really want to use those units to drop because it's going to be, they're going to see it coming unless you actually want them to see it coming as part of a tactical plan. But what you want to do is you want to keep the Protoss contained on 2 bases for as long as possible. So that means scaring them, getting in their face, but not losing too many units. And while you have them contained at 2 bases, Oracle there just died to, I believe it was something. Widowmine, or there's a Widowmine right there. So while they're on 2 bases, what you want to do is you want to take a third, right? Very important to get that third up. And then basically progress, keep macroing, and keep, you know, if you see them with Colossi, like what Flash has seen, you can get a second Starport. You get a Ghost Academy if you see them with Templar. Get your upgrades going to Arm Racing at 2-2. Basically, keep progressing your attack. Keep them to 2 bases while you're on 3, and you're going to get more and more units, and you're going to get more and more ahead in the game as you keep them contained while you have 3 bases. Of course, the one thing Flash is actually that's a little bit problematic is Parting switched to Templar very, very fast, and he has no Ghost Cell. So that might be a little bit of a problem as the game goes on. That'll be Flash's problem. Parting's problem, of course, as the game goes on, is going to be fighting against a Flash who's got 3 bases for longer. And, I mean, Pardoning is going to have a slight upgrade advantage, but it's not going to be a massive upgrade advantage as Flash isn't too far behind with that armory as compared to Pardoning's Twilight Tech. So, Flash, we can see here, he's actually trying to, like, scare Pardoning, put on some aggression, force out some energy, but he knows he's not going to kill Pardoning. He's trying to get Pardoning to reveal his tech choices, his army composition, and trying to persuade Pardoning that he shouldn't expand because Flash is there scaring him and basically a big threat there at that front door. So we'll take a short break and then be right back going deeper into this game as the game continues. We'll talk about Templar control, mobility plays, and a lot of cool stuff that both Flash and Pardoning do in this game and what makes it such an awesome game.